Okay, the head of Hezbollah, Mr. Hassan Nasrallah, is now the former head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, because the man was eliminated in an Israeli airstrike. Now, this news actually broke yesterday, but I didn't have full confirmation, and I wasn't about to jump the gun. I'm not a news channel. I'm not going to chase views so you guys can get an extra layer of nothing. Now that I know he's gone, and now that I know the facts, we can actually answer the more interesting question. While every other media is just blathering on about nothing, repeating the same things we all now know. Number one, he's dead. Number two, 83 bombs on his head. Number three, the entire chain of command of Hezbollah has basically been eliminated. We know all of that, right? The big question is what led to this? And more importantly, what happens next? Because we want to understand if this thing potentially may lead to an all-out regional war and maybe even to World War III. Maybe even World War IV at this point. Who knows? So there's a lot of topics to cover in this video. But the bottom line always comes first. So don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, don't buy nothing, just listen. So the bottom line here is very simple. You see, about 20 years ago, the Israelis decided to pull out of Lebanon, right? They pulled out. They basically said, you know what? You guys do you, we're going to do us. And they went back home. Now, the Lebanese have decided to pretty much let Hezbollah do its thing in the southern part of their country. Just to kind of clarify this, the Lebanese government doesn't really have sovereignty, not really, in the southern part of the country. That land is being controlled by Hezbollah. And Hezbollah spent the last 20 years building itself up for conflict with Israel, basically building a war machine. Now, as long as Hezbollah was basically content building up its force but not starting anything, the presumption on the Israeli side was that, well, unless we go in there, they're not going to attack us unprovoked, at least, well, not in the meantime. Now, October 7th changed a lot of things. When October 7th happened and Hezbollah started basically shooting rockets to the northern part of Israel, completely unprovoked by the Israelis, to show support for Hamas, that changed the equation. And because the Israelis were busy with what's going on with Gaza for the better part of the past year, they let Hezbollah keep doing their thing in the north because Israel wasn't about to fight a two-front war. They're not built for that, and frankly, no army really is excited about the two-front war. So the assumption was, let them do their thing, we're going to get payback a little bit later. We're going to finish off Gaza. So now the Israelis basically cleaned up Gaza. Hamas is no more. Whatever's left of its chain of command is basically hiding underground with hostages, so they can't stay alive. But Hamas as a governing force is gone. The Israelis hold Gaza, and they're going to keep holding on to it until they figure out how they prevent these guys from doing again what they did on October 7th, which is go on a murderous rampage just for fun, killing Israeli civilians. So that is basically maintenance at this point until they can figure out, the next day solution for Gaza. Now that they've finished that project, and successfully so, despite all the experts saying that Israelis will get ass-whooped in Gaza, that's a point of a different video. So now they're looking at Lebanon and saying, yo, remember how you said in multiple speeches how we're stupid, we're idiots, and you can do whatever you want, and we're not going to retaliate? Bet. And now they basically said, you know what? Now we're going to deal with you guys. So they start off by blowing up the hands and feet and genitals of various Hezbollah operatives using pages the Israelis booby-trapped in some sort of a James Bond move that I've never heard of before. Once they've compromised the entire telecom system of Hamas, the entire chain of command, they put Hamas into a spin... Sorry, not Hamas, Hezbollah. They put Hezbollah into a spin cycle, essentially causing chaos, panic, and got them to make a mistake. And the mistake they did. And they basically used that mistake to take out Hezbollah by eliminating the head of the snake and his entire chain of command by dropping 83 bombs on their head. And look, this video isn't for the willfully ignorant people who don't want to see the facts for what they are. They don't want to call a spade, right? They want to believe in this little James Cameron fairy tale of the poor villagers from Lebanon fighting against the big bad machine from the Israelis. And it's a nice narrative, a nice fairy tale to believe in, but it doesn't really sit well with the facts. So this video isn't for the blue-haired, tree-hugging idiots who want to believe in this fairy tale that they've concocted. This is a video for people who actually want to see what's going on for real. So Lebanese allowed Hezbollah to basically become a cancer in their own country, taking over the entire country pretty much, causing it to be a dysfunctional land, much like the Iranians have done in Yemen and Syria. And at this point, when we say Lebanon and Hezbollah, there's not really a difference. Although large parts of Lebanon really hate Hezbollah and actually do support the Israelis, for the most part, Hezbollah calls the shots. They've absolutely taken over that country like cancer. Now, they have decided to launch an unprovoked war against the Israelis to support the Hamas cause. And that was their prerogative, their decision. Now, they're facing the consequence of firing a barrage of rockets on a daily basis to mostly civilian targets in the northern Israel. I think the Iranians let Hezbollah and let Nasrallah kind of run the show, thinking that they've been so successful over the past 20 years, and they study the Israelis so much, and they know so much about the Israeli mentality, the culture, and all this stuff, and they know how to crumble Israel from inside, etc., etc., etc. Now, a lot of this is kind of true, but October 7th really changed a lot within the Israeli society, within the Israeli culture, and it kind of forged a completely different culture. And even though they really don't like each other over there, and I would say the best example would be Married with Children. If you ever watched that show with Ed O'Neill back in the 80s and the 90s, well, that family pretty much hated each other. Elle hated Peggy, they hated the kids hated them, and they did horrible things to each other. But whenever somebody tried to do some shit against one of the family members, they all stuck together, combined, and basically beat the crap of that person. Every little dispute they had, every little quarrel they had, went away the minute anybody tried to fuck with anybody from their family. And the Israelis are like that. They hate each other. They despise each other. There's a lot of disagreements. It's a really problematic political structure. But the moment somebody fucks with them from the outside, that person or giraffe or former head of Hezbollah is going to find out. So I wouldn't suggest fucking around and trying to find out how resilient these people are, because they kind of proven, over the past 70 years, they're quite resilient. I think Nasrallah made a lot of mistakes. I don't think he understood the ability of the Israelis to fight a prolonged war. I think his assumption was the prolonged attrition war that's going to last more than a couple of weeks is going to crumble the Israelis from the inside, and he will win without doing anything. That's why on October 7th, he didn't launch an attack to support Hamas. While Hamas was basically taking over the southern part of Israel, Nasrallah had a chance to go in the north and basically cause much greater chaos. But he decided not to do so because he basically said, look, we can actually win without spilling any of our own blood. Let the Hamas fight. They're Sunnis. We don't care. But we're going to drag Israel through a year of war, and they're going to fall apart from the inside. They're going to eat each other. And obviously, that was a huge mistake. Also, I don't think he learned from the lessons of what the Israelis did to Lebanon about 20 years ago in 2006. In 2006, he kind of played games, and the Israelis almost eliminated the entire quarter of the Dahya quarter in Beirut and caused massive damage. And basically, that was a warning. And I think that his idea of taking Lebanon to another Iranian-driven adventure, in a state that the Lebanese economy is in the political state of the Lebanese, it's not a healthy thing. And I think because he managed to drag Lebanon even deeper into doo-doo, starting this shit with Israel, I think over the past year, his popularity really went down. And even though he is still the strongman, still was the strongman up until yesterday in Lebanon, you see, when you become unpopular and people really don't like what you're doing, you pick up a lot of enemies. And I think that really contributed to the ability of the Israelis to find out exactly where this motherfucker was hiding. Now, I'm not saying that based on any sort of knowledge, but I'm saying when you become unpopular and people really don't fuck with your decisions, it becomes easy for intelligence to kind of flow and help the Israelis to take you out. Look, the big question, what Iran is going to do with it? Because the playbook is wide open for them. Let's be honest, right? They can do a Houthi attack from the south of Israel. It basically launch missiles and rockets. And the Houthis have plenty of arsenal. And they really don't have any kind of rational, logical way of thinking of, oh, okay, if we're going to do this, the Israelis are going to destroy us. So they really don't care. They're a bunch of yahoos and flip-flops that don't really have any sort of consequential thinking about how this action is going to cause a reaction, etc., etc., etc. Plus, they're a complete lackey of the Iranians, even more than Hezbollah. So they might use the Houthi rebels. They might use the Houthi rebels for a combined strike in which they will fire rockets over the Israelis and completely blockade the Suez Canal, which is going to suffocate the shipping lanes to Israel. That's mostly an economic thing, but that's also going to hurt Egypt, which is another massive U.S. ally. And that's not going to sit well with the U.S., so that might be a risky move. Of course, they can launch another direct attack from Iran towards Israel. Now, they've tried that before and fell flat in their face. I doubt they try it again because of how it went the first time. And of course, there's always the option of basically doing kind of a medium response, right? Let Hezbollah fire a barrage of rockets to Israel just to show kind of the Hezbollah supporters they're still alive. And then live to fight another day, pick up the pieces and kind of try to rebuild Hezbollah. I think that the Iranians, or Iranians at this point, and when I say Iranians and Iran supporters, I don't mean the people of Iran, because most of them actually like the Israelis and hate the regime. I'm talking about the regime, the assholes who took a whole country hostage. I'm talking about these motherfuckers. So I don't think these motherfuckers want war right now. And I think what they're going to do is try and contain the situation as much as possible. And they're going to try to cause a reaction that doesn't make them look weak, but doesn't start a full-on war that might actually cost them another major piece. They've already lost Hamas. Hamas is basically gone. So they might actually lose the only lever, I don't know how to say it, Russian accent, whatever. The only leverage they have with the Israelis, which was the threat from the north. If the Israelis take out Hezbollah right now, and they're very close to doing so, they lose that leverage and they have no leverage of the Israelis. So really, they don't have a choice. I don't think they want a full war because in the current configuration of Hezbollah, after what happened with the Beeper attack and Nasrallah and the whole chain of command basically being gone, I don't think that Hezbollah will be able to win that war. They're definitely going to cause some pain for the Israelis, make no mistake about it. They have plenty of rockets to do so, but strategically, they're not anywhere close to being able to win that war. So, in the best interest of the Israelis, it might be to take out Hezbollah now at its weakest point. But the problem is that while Iran is going to contain it or try to contain it, they're going to get some help from this U.S. administration, which is going to try to stop the war for political clout and political reasons because they're trying to win a very complicated campaign back home, which if we go to war is going to strengthen the opposition, Donald Trump that is. That's not going to be good for that campaign. So they will be willing to throw the Israelis under the bus just to kind of try and win this campaign, this election campaign. And that's going to drive a major push from the U.S. assisted by their lackeys, the French macaroni, who is one of the biggest Hezbollah supporters I've ever seen, to just follow the U.S. policy around like a lapdog, saying, yeah, just stop it, the Israelis. And there's going to be a lot of push against the Israelis. But, they've shown before they're really able to withstand that international pressure and do what they think is best for them. Hamas, on the other hand, is absolutely finished. There's nothing left of them. It's basically Sinwar and a few of his lackeys, and they're holding on to lots of hostages. And that is their insurance policy. And I think they're not going to do anything drastic while there's a chance that Hezbollah might drag the entire region into a regional war. I don't think anybody has any doubt right now that what I said months ago, back when I was posting daily on this channel, that the Israelis are winning this war, and people called me crazy. I don't think anybody calls me crazy right now because obviously right now everybody understands the Israelis are winning this war. Now, as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. I'm going to try to make more videos on this channel. I promise. I'll do my best. And it will depend on you. If you watch this video, if you share this video, if it gets lots of views and lots of likes, and I see that there's a demand for more videos, I'll make more videos. Simple as that. See you next one.